All right, so hello everyone. My name is Ayo. Been suffering from IBS for the last 2 years, and I'm really just making this video to share my story, and hopefully some people will learn from this, will maybe find ways to combat their own symptoms, but really just hope it can be helpful just by sharing my story. So to kind of go back, I first had IBS symptoms about 2 years ago after I traveled to London. So went to London for Christmas break. Went and saw the London Eye and the London Dungeon and explored and had a great time. But I visited a very sketchy Indian place. Very sketchy. But long story short, I was in London, and then I developed really severe constipation. So I was constipated for about 5 or 6 days, and it was in conjunction with me eating that Indian food. But I prior to this, I already was experiencing constipation, so I thought, well, maybe it's just worse than normal. But then I came back to the States, was still having symptoms, was still feeling bloated and having constipation. But really, everything came to a head when I went to New York. So I went to New York for a weekend, and at this point, I hadn't had a bowel movement in like 12 days. I was super constipated, super bloated. I was so desperate that I even went and took suppository laxatives, and that barely helped. But so super bloated, super constipated, and I ended up getting food poisoning actually. So it was terrible. I was on the bus, and I just vomited everything I ate that day, and it felt really bad. But that really was the kind of beginning of my symptoms. So that constipation and bloating lasted a long time. Several months. I was at work or during rotations, and just remember I would try to exercise my abdomen to try to reduce some of that constipation, but constantly bloated. And this is when I began to notice the change in appetite, the change in satiety. So I'd get full really fast. And really, I struggled with that for a long time. The only different thing I did was I started to work out a lot more. So I started doing like push-ups and sit-ups and running and jump rope. I did a lot of exercising, and that actually helped to manage the symptoms a bit. Still couldn't eat that much, but exercising, everything, I kept my stomach flat. So I did that for a while, but you really can't. Personally, I can't sustain working out for that long, and so gradually the symptoms came back, and with the bloating and everything. And this most current episode was pretty bad. It was at the point where I would eat, a pretty small meal by my standards, and I'd feel like I just eaten a Thanksgiving feast. I'd be super bloated, super full, and I forgot to add another kind of problematic symptom for me was the belching. Like I was constantly belching. Belching like 50 to 60 times a day. Just like gross. It's rude. It's not appropriate. It's not professional, etc. And that was another. So in terms of the belching, the early satiety, and also the distension and bloating. Those are my main symptoms. So struggle, and I don't know. I just was pretty desperate, and I looked up. And at this point, I'd seen two doctors. I'd actually seen my primary care doctor who thought it was IBS, and referred me to a gastroenterologist. And the gastroenterologist was thinking, "Oh, this is constipation versus IBS. You're young, you look fine, nothing's wrong." And at this point, I already been exercising a lot by the time I saw the gastroenterologist. And that's even a different story because it took about 4 months for me to see the GI doctor, and by then I already figured out ways to manage my symptoms. When I was having active symptoms that were bad, I couldn't get an appointment. So I already seen two doctors, and they were more likely, oh, it's IBS, are you stressed? Are you the type of person who gets stressed out and things like that? And not really. I'm someone who pretty much stays calm. I get as stressed as anyone else, but I don't really handle stress in that way. I'm pretty good at managing my stress. So didn't think it was IBS, but I kind of went along with what they were saying and was thinking, oh, I have to live with this the rest of my life. But kind of going back to the main story, this last flare-up was pretty bad. Couldn't really eat. It was full all the time. I couldn't study, had low energy, felt tired all the time. I love eating, I love food, and to do that, I would suffer. If I wanted to have like a Chick-fil-A meal, milkshake or something, I'm going to suffer the rest of the day. So it was I realized, wow, this is bad, and I want to figure out a way to kind of combat this. Like, I don't think it's IBS anymore. I think something else is going on. So looked online. I found some videos talking about how someone's IBS symptoms were cured by taking antibiotics, or that they did a stool culture and had blastocystis. And so I kind of took the lead from this and said, you know what, I want to do a similar workup. So talked to my GI doctor, got everything scheduled, ended up getting a gastric emptying study, which came back normal. Then I got a breath test, and that was really positive for hydrogen producing species. So that was probably suggestive of something called SIBO, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and that's what we likely think I have. But I also did a colonoscopy, endoscopy, just to make sure that there are no like structural things that were predisposing me. But I really did a research, and I found out so much about myself, and it was just good to finally have some answers and know that something really is wrong with me. It's not that it's in my head and I'm having these GI symptoms because of that. It's an actual problem. So that was really comforting to hear. And so just making this video, this is my first day of taking the antibiotic for SIBO, which is called Xifaxan or Rifaxa. I forget what the other name is, but Xifaxan. So my first day, traditionally it's a very expensive medication, but I've been lucky that my insurance covered it, so it was pretty affordable. But this is my first day of taking it. Just wanted to record my journey, and I'm really hopeful that this will help me be cured of these symptoms, because it really was terrible. It really affects your quality of life, and this is no way to live. So I will keep you all updated. I plan to make videos throughout the course of me taking this antibiotic, and also afterwards, and when I start probiotics and other things like that. And I hope that this video will help someone in the future out there who's experiencing similar symptoms. So thank you, and follow the next video.